NF7J. Kevin, are you on frequency?
Good evening, NF7J is on frequency.
Would you like to proceed with training this evening?
Thank you, Steve. So if you're not already there, please go to the idahoerc.org website and bring up this evening's slides on the Spring ERC Exercise. So we are starting something new that will soon be available on the website, and that is we are recording both audio as well as slides, and they will be available on a new ERC YouTube channel. So that means you'll be able to look and watch, or people that miss the trainings can go back and review with the slides and the audio. So beginning tonight, you'll be able to share this evening's training with those that missed it, or those that may be ERC operators and didn't have an opportunity to listen on the air. They'll be able to go back and watch this on the new ERC YouTube channel. So coming up very soon, on June the 14th, is the Spring ERC Exercise. So we have been plotting this for a long time now. We've had to make some changes. We announced a little bit to some of the changes, but there'll be more details coming. Some significant changes coming out of Salt Lake that they've asked us to pause the previous exercise that we had planned. So we're going to do something along similar lines, but not quite to the extent that we had planned. So we're going to talk about the exercise and hopefully help everyone to get better prepared for the exercise. Let's go to slide number 2. So the exercise starts at 8 o'clock. We're starting a little bit earlier this year to make sure that we have time to do everything that we need to and be done by 12 o'clock noon. So 7 o'clock a.m., we start with our pre-exercise radio traffic on the 146.88 megahertz repeater. We are working on some other possible GMRS options that we will announce prior to the exercise. But for all the amateur radio operators, tune in to this repeater and you will start hearing traffic beginning at about 7 o'clock on Saturday, June the 14th. And the exercise will end promptly at 12 o'clock noon. We will not have an in-person lessons learned meeting. Instead, we'll provide a link to an evaluation form to get everyone's feedback, and this also gives us a little bit more time to complete the exercise. Let's go to slide number 3. So what is the purpose of ERC exercises? Well, they are to help us train and prepare for actual emergencies. Exercises also provide rewards and stakes, an opportunity to test their emergency communication capabilities. This gives participants an opportunity to exercise emergency operations in a training environment. It also gives participants a unique opportunity to exercise their equipment during the training exercise. So you can do things that normally you don't have the ability to do outside of an exercise or an actual emergency. So one note, sometimes people get confused with this because there is instructions in the handbook that say that we do not conduct mock exercises, and that is true, we do not. So this exercise coming up on the 14th is not a mock disaster, it is a training exercise. So don't misunderstand a mock disaster with the training exercise. Two very different things. Let's go to slide number 4. So we say this every time, and those that have participated, I think will agree that you will learn more about emergency communications in a few hours than you will by simply checking into radio nets over an entire year. And let's go to the next slide and find out why. The reason why is because you gain actual experience in an exercise like this. You gain experience with radio operations. You gain experience with communicating clearly and efficiently by doing it. You obtain a greater understanding of emergency operations because you're doing it. And you get to have a lot of fun in the process. So this exercise, I think, will be a lot of fun. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do and how things work. And then I'm going to talk about how this is different, because what we're going to do, we've tried one other time, and we had some problems, some issues, and those have now been worked out and enhanced, and I'll talk about those here in a few minutes. So let's go to slide number 6. So in order to understand understand this exercise, let's talk about the concept of needs and resources. Needs are things like things or people or possibly medications, which is a thing, or it could be services. So, you might have a need for a certain item, such as sandbags, for example, or people. You may have a need for somebody who can do a certain task that has a certain level of expertise. Maybe there's certain medications that somebody needs because of the emergency. Or maybe there are certain services, such as a backhoe and a driver, for example, an operator that can operate that. So needs are things that occur in every single disaster or emergency event. There are always going to be needs. And hopefully there will be resources. And resources are those things that meet the need. So they're the same things. They're things, they're people, they're medications, they're services. They are the things that match the needs. So for this exercise, communicators will need to match needs with resources. Okay? So in an actual emergency, communicators help match needs with resources. So let's go to slide number 7. So, in an emergency, we typically don't advertise the resources that we have to offer. Instead, we advertise the needs that we have. One of the problems that happens with almost any significant emergency event is people, because of the goodness of their hearts, they want to help out. And so they think about things that might be needed, such as a case of water from Costco, for example. And so they will drive down to the Emergency Operations Center or the shelter or wherever it is, and they will bring the things that they think are needed. The problem is, if there's not a need, you end up having extra resources and you don't know what to do with them, and it creates a new problem. And so, in any event, whether it's this exercise or in an actual emergency, we find the need first, and then we try and find the resource to match the needs, not the other way around. Let's go to slide number 8. So for this exercise, every emergency communicator, and that includes amateur radio operators, GMRS or FRS radio operators, commercial radio operators, MERS, any of the radio services or emergency communication methods, including satellite communications, any of the operators of those systems will be given 3 needs and 3 resources. The goal during this exercise will be for you as an operator to find the resources that match your needs. So for each need, there is one and only one resource that meets the need. In other words, all of the needs and their matching resources are unique to each other. So there's not going to be, in other words, 10 people that have a resource that matches your needs. There's only going to be one that matches one resource to match your needs. And that resource can be found within your own ward. It might be found within your own stake, or maybe it's found in a neighboring stake within your region, or maybe it's found in another communications region that's clear in another city or multiple cities away. So it'll be our experience and our goal to find who has the matching resource to our needs. You also have 3 resources, which means somebody out there is looking for the resource that you have, one of your 3 resources. So let's talk about how you match up these needs and resources. Let's go to slide number 9. So let's give the example. Let's say that you have a ward radio net. Each of your ward radio nets are going to have operators that participate in that ward net. And so if you're an operator that's on that net, you're going to have 3 needs and 3 resources. And I'll tell you how you'll get those here in just a minute. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to advertise to all of the other radio operators on your ward radio net the needs that you have, and see if any of the other operators on that net have a resource that matches any of your needs. Every one of the operators on that net is going to do the same thing. They're going to advertise their needs. After everybody has talked about all of the needs and tried to match up anything that's not met, then it's going to get passed up to the stake. And you can see the yellow arrow going from the ward up to a stake net. Let's go to slide number 10. So the stake then is going to collect all of the unmet needs from all of the wards in the stake. So they're going to have what could be a pretty long list of needs, and they are going to help advertise that. And probably how it's going to happen is on the stake net, you're going to have a representative from the ward net that's going to take all of those needs to the stake, and they're going to advertise on that stake net all of the needs that are coming from their ward. And everybody else on that net is going to listen to see if they have any matches. And that's going to go around the table, so to speak, on the stake net, where all of the wards bring all of their needs and try and see how many can be met within the stake. If there's a match, then information has to go back to the ward of who has the matching resource. So you're going to need their call sign. So each side, the resource and the need side, are both going to need the call sign of the other person. So in other words, the person with the need is going to need to know who the call sign of the person that has the matching resource. Okay? And that's going to take some effort, and it's going to take a lot of communication. This particular exercise generates a lot of radio traffic because there's a lot of things that go back and forth, because even though you might only send up one set of needs from the ward to the stake, you're going to have all kinds of needs that start flowing in from all of these other radio nets that they can't find their needs, so they start taking them and spreading them out to try and figure out who has the matching resources for each of these needs and for each of these reasons. Who has matching resource for all of the needs. Let's go to slide number 11. So if the stake can't find the need, then they pass it to the region. The region passes it around to the other stakes in the region, and if they can't find it, you guessed it, they pass it up to the next level, which would be, in this case, the storehouse net. Let's go to slide number 12. The storehouse net consists of all of the regions. So you have representatives from each of the regions participate in the storehouse net, and they pass traffic trying to match up needs with resources. And that, in a nutshell, is kind of how things happen. So let's talk a little bit more to make sure that everybody understands how all this works. But there's also one more level. You see that there's a yellow arrow after the storehouse that goes to the area. Well, we're not going to include the area in this exercise, but we have it on here just as an example. So the area, in our case, is the North America Central area, which is the biggest swath of land in North America. So it covers many states in central United States, as well as Canada currently. Canada's going to split off into its own area in August, but right now, Canada is included in the central area. So let's go to slide number 13. So the area is going to be talking to storehouses or coordinating councils. So we're not going to get into all of those details. It's not necessary for our exercise, but if it needs to be, in this example, it's going to go to the next level, which would be to church headquarters. So let's go to slide number 14. So for our exercise, what we have is several separate radio nets that all work together. So they work independently, but they have connectivity between the nets. So if you look at the wards, they all surround the stake. And so you have a ward net, then you have a stake net, and they all work together. And they try to find the matches. If they can't, then the stake passes it to the region, which patches it to the other stakes. If they can't solve the problem, in other words, find the resource to match the needs, then they pass those that aren't met up to the next level of the storehouse, who coordinates with all of the regions. In this case, the Idaho Falls North region, the Idaho Falls South, the Rigby region, and the Rexford region all coordinate with each other on that storehouse net. Let's go to slide number 15. So it's basically just a hierarchy. Starting in this example, from the ward is the first level. If it can't be found there, you go to the stake at the second level. If it can't be found there, you go to the region, the third level. If it can't be found there, it gets passed up. When I say you take it there, you actually just pass. Somebody represents one net, passes it to the next. It's not that all the operators have to go and check in. You stay on your radio net. So if you have a ward net, you're going to stay on your ward net. If you're participating at like a stake level, you would stay at the stake level, unless you are the liaison operator that passes traffic to the next level. So the only people that are actually passing the traffic between these levels are liaison operators. Everybody else sticks with their same net. It's not that everybody is jumping around everywhere. That would be very inefficient, and not very effective. So you stay at your level and your net where you're operating. And that's the general idea for this hierarchy. Let's look at it in a different way. Let's go to slide number 16. So this kind of shows for this exercise, we've got, it doesn't show the ward nets, but you would have possibly ward nets with each stake. And then you have all the stakes in each of the regions. They ought to follow the North region, the South region, the Rexburg region, and the Rigby region. And they are all coordinated through the storehouse. So that's another way to look at the message hierarchy for this exercise. So now let's talk about how do you get those needs and resources, and how do we know that we found matches? Let's go to slide number 17. So we have used an app that we created to help us to perform these exercises. One of the challenges we have with any of these exercises is how do we give everybody something to do and something to say on the radio? It's a lot harder than it might seem. And so this is a new technology that we are trying. We did it once before, a couple of years ago, and we had some, or a year and a half ago, I guess, and we had some issues that we've since worked out, and now we're ready to try this again. And so let's go to slide number 18. So for the spring exercise on the 14th, you will need to have access, every operator will need to have access to either a smartphone or a tablet or a computer during the exercise. And that's how you're going to get this. So we're going to go through and tell you how this works. But basically, you've got to have one of these technologies, and it's the only the exception for using power, commercial power, and or the internet is only for the purpose of communicating using this technology to get your needs and resources and to match things up. So we're using it for purposes of the exercise, but normally for anything else in the exercise, you shouldn't be using your cell phones or your computers, your tablets, or the internet for any part of the exercise. You should rely on other things. I take that back. You can use a computer and you can use a tablet. They just can't be connected to the internet, and they can't be connected to commercial power. But we're not going to go into those details right now, but just so if there's a question, that's how that works. So let's go through and let's talk about how this works. Let's go to slide number 19. So the first thing that we're going to ask everybody to do is to register for an exercise account. If this is done prior to the exercise, then it just saves a little bit of time on the morning of the exercise. However, registering prior to the exercise is not needed. You can actually register in the middle of the exercise. If somebody comes into the exercise because they had to work or they had something else going on and they have an hour or two they can spend on the exercise, no problem. They can actually come late to the party, so to speak, and it just takes a couple of minutes. All you have to do is go to the exercise sign-up, which, let me just pause for just a minute. Caleb, are you on frequency? Are we ready for the sign-ups tonight?
This is KF7. Give me just a couple minutes. There's one table overlap, but by the end of the training, we should be ready for sign-up.
Okay, so nobody, you can see the URL here, but don't go to it right now, we're making a few last-minute changes here to allow you to sign up as early as tonight if you want. As soon as we have everything in place, we're going to advertise this through emails and the regional grouping messages so that we can get the word out to everybody who wants to participate, how they can go and sign up. Either, again, prior to the exercise would be great. If not, you can do it on the day of the exercise. So the only thing it takes to sign up is you put in your name, your email address, you select a 6-digit PIN code. All that is basically you can think of it as the password that you get in with your email. Okay, so you just select the code. Remember that code, and if you say, "Hey, I did this last time," we've wiped all those out, so you'll need to re-register. That was done on purpose. So with this exercise, we're just starting fresh because we made a lot of changes. So you'll still need to register even if you did it last time. This is going to require everybody to get an account prior to the exercise or during the exercise. And then you're going to select a radio service. This is more just to kind of give us an idea of who's using what their primary method of communication is going to be. So you've got the radio service. You'll have options for amateur radio or GMRS/FRS or MERS or commercial or satellite, or you can select other. So wards and stakes can use anything they want. It's up to you, but this just gives us an idea of what operators are kind of on utilizing what service primarily. You might actually be on multiple of these services during the exercise. Just pick the one that you're going to be your primary. You think will be your primary radio service. Again, it doesn't matter for the purpose of the exercise. It's just for our information to kind of track who's and what during the exercise. And then the other thing is your call sign. So if you're an amateur radio operator, you have an FCC-assigned call sign. If you have a license for GMRS, at least one person in your family will have a call sign. But if you have like 5 people from the same family, you can't all use the same GMRS call sign. If you try, it'll recognize that it's a duplicate, and it'll say, yeah, you can't use that. So not a problem. If you're just an FRS operator or you're one of multiple people that may be using the same GMRS licensing, all you do is leave it blank. If it's duplicate, just leave the call sign blank, and the system will assign you what it calls a call sign, because we need a call sign to kind of match up our operators. So to make it easy, every radio operator will need a call sign. And if you don't have an FCC-assigned one, then you just leave it blank, and the system will give you one. And then, and it'll always be right there on the app after you log in, so you won't have to remember it. It'll be right there for you. And so if you look over to the right side of this screen, you'll see what that sign-up screen looks like on a cell phone. You can sign up on a computer, and it's the same thing, but just bigger. Let's go to slide number 20. So after you register, you log in, and the only thing it takes to log in is your email address and the PIN code that you selected when you signed up. Let's go to slide number 21. Okay, so on the morning of the exercise, you can tell it, I'm ready to be assigned needs, and it won't assign you any needs and resources until the exercise starts. So at the appropriate time on the morning of the exercise, everybody will get assigned their needs and resources all at the same time. It's kind of cool. So everybody's cell phone will come to life, and the system will be pushing this out. If you're wondering about what monster computer is going to handle all this, no problem. Amazon Web Services to the rescue. So we have big hardware that's going to take care of assigning all this out. So everybody gets assigned their needs and resources all at the same time, but you have to click on the I'm ready so that the system knows that you're actually in the game, so to speak. So make sure and hit that green I'm ready to be assigned needs, and then when it's ready, it'll go ahead and assign your needs and your resources. Let's go to slide number 22. Once you've got your needs and resources, then you go and try and find the match. So let's say in this example, you are assigned a need of Dr. Nelson's vitamin pills, the spiritual variety pack. Well, there's only one other operator that's going to have a resource that matches Dr. Nelson's vitamin pills. You'll see I'm looking over on the right side of the screen in the gray area. That's the need, and in this case, if you found the call, all you need is the call sign of the person that says they have that resource for you. If you put in their call sign, and if it's correct, then go to slide number 23 next. If it's a match, you'll get this green checkbox, and that means that the system has verified that the need operator and the resource operator have put each other's information in, and bingo, you have an official verified match. So you can't cheat. Not that you're going to do it on purpose, but if somebody doesn't understand or something, the system will help make sure that everybody's doing it correctly, and now you've got a match. So your goal is to find resources to follow up your needs, and also to offer up your resources to anybody that has a need that matches the resources that you hold. Let's go to slide number 24. Down at the bottom, you can kind of scroll down a little bit, and you can see your personal stats. So it'll show you that you have the number of needs that you've fulfilled. So if you found a match for one of your needs, it shows 1. And if you've given up 2 of your resources to somebody else that needed those, then it shows those too. So if you have 3 needs and 3 resources down there on your stats, that means you've done you've found everything. So here's the cool thing. Let's say that you're doing really well and you're able to find your needs, all of your needs, and you want some more. The system will allow you to ask for another need, and then it will go out and ask somebody else that's in the exercise if they will take on another resource. And so you can ask for as many needs as you think you can handle. So for every need that you ask, it has to go out and find somebody else that's willing to be the match for that, if that makes sense. So this allows us to change things in the middle of the exercise, and it's really cool because we never could do that when we did this on paper the first time. Let's go to slide number 25. So you've got a few weeks to get ready here. So are you ready to go? So as with any emergency, actual emergency, or any exercise, can you communicate from your vehicle? I promise you the most valuable way that you're going to be able to communicate is from your vehicle. The best is a mobile radio that's permanently mounted in your vehicle. If you don't have that, you can always have an HD, and it's nice if you can plug it into the power cigarette lighter adapter and have some way to power that, and even have an external antenna. But if you've got a radio in your vehicle, that is your best. Again, not just for this exercise, but especially for any emergency, because most emergencies you're not going to be operating probably from the comfort of your lazy boy in your living room with your handheld. You're going to have to probably go out, and we're going to need you somewhere else. So that's why we always emphasize the ability to communicate on the go. Make sure that you have a notepad and paper for record keeping, especially for this exercise. There's going to be a lot of information flying back and forth, and that's one of the things that you're going to get a lot of experience on, is how to record information and pass it back and forth, and how to listen closely to make sure that you're getting things correctly and you're able to record it. So you're definitely going to need notepad and paper for record keeping. We encourage you to be familiar with your ward and stake boundaries. That's just a good thing to know anytime. Not necessarily going to be needed for this exercise, but you never know what might be asked in addition to the needs and resources. There are other things that can and will crop up during this exercise besides the needs and resources. So be prepared for what may come down. It's not going to be just needs and resources necessarily for some operators. And you always want to have emergency contact information for people in your wards and stakes, for leadership especially, and others. Do you have emergency contact for how to get a hold of people, and with or without phones? Sometimes, if you have just a list of cell phone numbers and their names, that's not going to help you when those phones aren't available. So having people's addresses as well is going to be good. So having emergency contact information, and in a format that you can get when there is no internet or power, for example. So just some ideas and some things to help you get ready. Let's go to slide number 26. Whenever there's an emergency, we train everybody to listen to this repeater. Don't jump on your ward net to start with. Don't jump on your region net to start with, or any other nets. The frequency that you're going to want for this area is the 146.88 megahertz repeater. Those that are outside our area listening to this on YouTube, you can ignore that. This only applies to our location here in eastern Idaho. So you should program this and other frequencies into memory channels. It makes it easy for those frequencies that you use in an emergency. So this repeater, for example, there's also a backup frequency for the repeater in case it's down. So make sure you have those programmed into your radios, and it makes it easy when things are stressful in an emergency if you've got some of those things all programmed in your radio ahead of time. The other reason why we encourage you to listen to the 88 is whatever information is available for emergencies in this area, it's going to be heard on the ERC nets, and specifically on the 88. The news media listens to this repeater that's owned by the church, is because this is where all the information tends to flow through. So there'll be instructions if there's a need to break into smaller nets, such as regional nets. because of the level of effort that's going to be required, or other nets. It'll all be announced on this repeater, on the 80 repeater. Let's go to slide number 27. Actually, let's go to slide number 28, and then we'll wait for just a minute here. So I'm going to pause. I went through a lot of stuff pretty quickly because there was a lot to go through. You're going to be able to go back and look at these slides at any time and reread these slides and review them to make sure that they make sense. You can also go back and there'll be a link in the coming few days with a YouTube video that you can pass that link around to those in your into your ward and stakes. So those people that are not on the net tonight can come back and kind of listen to this training and get an idea for what's going to happen on the exercise and kind of get an idea of how you might prepare so you understand what's going on. So before I open up for comments or questions, just remember, basically just find the resources that match your needs starting on your local net. That's in the simplest form, that's what we're doing. And if you can't find it on that net, it gets passed to the next net by your net control operator or net control team. So I'll pause for any comments or questions. Please come now. This is NF7J.
November 7, Tango Mike Sierra.
Good evening, Todd. Go ahead.
Good evening. Lots of instruction. Good job, Kevin. Appreciate that. If I identify an operator that has my resource, so I have a call sign, I plug it in, it's a match. Does the person that owns that resource also have to put a call sign in, or does that happen automatically?
I think they both do. Can you verify that, Caleb?
Just the operator with the need puts it in. The operator with the resource will have the list of resources, but they do not need to do anything in the app with that. They just have to report it to their net control when that resource is requested.
Okay, that's perfect. That helps. That means the communication really only has to go one way, right? So we don't have to confirm that it's been received. We only have to put it in that that operator has the resource. Thanks. And 7 TMS.
Awesome question. Thank you, Todd. I didn't even understand that. So yeah, just one side. Another note for those that are going to be helping out with net control duties at the region and storehouse levels, there will be training that we will provide to all of those net control team members that we'll also record. There'll be a Zoom call. So just for your information, Todd, and anybody else on the call. Any other comments or questions, please come now.
KT7 GZL.
GZO, go ahead.
So the between levels will be 2-meter communications. Mostly within the wards or stakes will be any of the other choices, GMRS, FRS, or other.
That's typically correct. I mean, you could have wards and stakes that use amateur, but typically wards and stakes are probably going to be using one of the others, which is also a benefit because one of the things that we've learned from past exercises is when you have two nets that need to talk to each other through a liaison, if they're both on 2 meters, for example, doesn't matter how far you try and get those antennas apart, you're going to probably clobber the other net that somebody's trying to operate on, the other net control operator. And so if you've got one on VHF and one on UHF, so for example, one on GMRS or FRS and then the other on 2 meters, not going to be a problem. There are some technical ways to get around that, but we're not going to go in that tonight, but that's correct.
W7KEA.
ADA, go ahead.
This is W7KEA from Island Park. Ward liaison stake. Are those ward liaison size control? They also have the...
Typically not, because the net control operators will have their hands full, and so although they could, but that's going to interfere with their net control duties. If you're a net control operator, that's your role in the exercise.
KC7IHV.
Go ahead, Steve.
Just for those who may want to run 2 meters or 270 centimeters, where you can get yourself in trouble if you're not real careful, as Kevin had announced. If you're interested in doing that, get a hold of me. I can explain to you how that can be resolved. And so just get a hold of me, this KC7IHV, and back to training.
So all you stakes specialists and ward specialists, just be thinking that you are communicating not only net control for your OrdNet or StakeNet, but you need a liaison to the next net up. And so you're going to need, it's really tough to do that with one operator because you can't really listen to two frequencies when you have a list of things being read on both frequencies. It's not going to work well, especially for this exercise. And not only should you have two operators as recommended, but we recommend that you work out some type of headphone situation so that you can concentrate on what you're hearing on that radio. So just some things to think about. You will learn much through this exercise and trying to figure out how to do the liaison between the nets. And so no matter what your role in this exercise, you're guaranteed to learn a lot. Any other comments or questions, please come down. Okay, we've gone over our time. We knew we had a lot to cover tonight. We will cover this again in the coming couple weeks. We'll do another run through, but we will provide this information on the ERC website. Again, you'll be a link to the YouTube videos, and we will also be announcing. So for the net control operators for the region and storehouse teams, there'll be training on the 5th. Thursday night at the 5th, then we'll have another follow-up, probably for those that can't make that. But it'll be important for them to kind of join that training. But we'll provide more information to them. So thank you, everyone, and we appreciate your participating in tonight's training. This is NF7J, back to net control.
Break.
Yep, for the training tonight. This is going to be a really exciting training that we're going to be having here on June 14th, so be sure to save that date.